Good afternoon, everyone. It is April 7th, 2018. I'm Eric. How's everyone doing today? I hope you're all doing well. U.S. government admits funding political change at the direction of billionaire George Soros. At the direction of billionaire George Soros. Yeah, look at that man. Or demon. Or something else. Try not to read this whole article to y'all, because I'm sure it is a little bit redundant for you. Sorry I've been absent lately. My body has been hurting rather badly at the end of my workday, and I'm just really exhausted. Haven't really had time to look at the news or do much of anything for that matter. So this comes from RT, but I'm on the Free Thought Project. Albania. Documents the State Department was forced to publish show that it spent almost $9 million on political reform in Albania, coordinated with billionaire George Soros. The U.S. government denies the expenditure was inappropriate. And look, just because they're talking about Albania in this instance doesn't mean George Soros don't do the same here, or our government, because they do. A U.S. agency for international development channeled funds into a Justice for All campaign to reform the judicial system in Albania in 2016. How about we reform the judicial system in the United States instead of other countries? Because let me tell you, our judicial system is in shambles. You really are denied due process here in the United States. Okay. The campaign was run by Soros East-West Management Institute, according to the conservative watchdog Judicial Watch. The group obtained 32 pages of State Department documents in a legal battle, which concluded with the U.S. government submitting to a Judicial Watch Information Act request in exchange for a dropped lawsuit. The Obama administration quietly spent at least $9 million in taxpayer dollars to direct collusion with left-wing billionaire, or indirect collusion with left-wing billionaire George Soros, backing of a socialist government in Albania. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton said in a statement. Soros is a billionaire and shouldn't be receiving taxpayer support to advance his radical left agenda to undermine freedom here at home and abroad. Following the report's publication, a U.S. aid official told Fox News that the agency did not provide grants to Soros's Open Society Foundation in Albania, which is technically true according to the Judicial Watch publication. Instead, the U.S. Embassy in Tirana and the OSF each provided funding to a local organization to conduct a public opinion poll on attitudes toward the judicial reform effort. A document from February of 2017 said the poll's results sounded favorable for the judicial reform championed by the OSF and the Obama administration. And again, I say, why are we funding things like this in foreign countries such as Albania when there are so much or so many things here in the United States that need funding? I mean, if we're going to have a socialist government, then shouldn't we at least be looking out for those living inside of our border instead of everybody else? Just saying. And by the way, I do not support socialism in any way. Even if it benefited me right now, even if it gave me more monthly income than I currently have, I wouldn't support it simply because that money was taken from somebody else. So, if you have to take money from somebody else to pay me or help me, then I don't want it. I'd rather go without. So let's see here. Okay, so the following report's publication, a U.S. aid official told Fox News that the agency did not provide grants to Soros's Open Society Foundation, or OSF, in Albania, which is technically true according to Judicial Watch's publication. Instead, the U.S. Embassy, and I'm sorry, I'm repeating this, in Tirana, and the OSF each provided funding to a local organization to conduct a public opinion poll. Okay. The polls results were favorable to reform, the judicial reform championed by the George Soros Foundation and Obama administration. For decades, there have been broad bipartisan agreement in Washington, D.C. on the need to promote democracy and human rights abroad. Well, maybe we should promote these things abroad, but don't you think maybe our own country should at least not be violating the human rights of the American people on a daily basis, along with every country our military has invaded? I mean, do you know the human rights violations that occur in the prisons and county jails across this country on a daily basis at the hands of the COs, the guards? Hell, a lot of times in prison, it's not your fellow inmates that you got to worry about doing things like raping you. It's actually the guards you have to worry about. So, and we have no business even poking our nose in anyone's or any other nation's internal affairs while our country's internal affairs continue to deteriorate at alarming rates. I mean, aren't you alarmed by the things you see go on within our society, our country, by the law enforcement community, by the political class? Aren't you alarmed by some of the bills, if not the majority of them, that work against the best interest of you and your family? If you're not alarmed, then you're really not paying attention to the nuts and bolts level of things. Yeah, sure, on the surface, everything seems to look okay. Seems to look. That doesn't make everything okay. Okay, I'm going to repeat what I just started, the paragraph I just started before I digressed. For decades, there has been broad bipartisan agreement in Washington, D.C. on the need to promote democracy and human rights abroad. A spokesman for OSF told Fox News in a statement, adding, of late, there has been an unfortunate and misguided effort to politicize this process. Fitton and Judicial Watch were especially critical of U.S. Ambassador to Albania, Donald Liu, whom the group called in the statement a holdover from the Obama administration and an official with inappropriately close ties to Soros. The embassy in Tirana, they point out, frequently asks representatives of the OSF to participate in technical reviews of applications for funding U.S. aid receives, according to a February 2017 memo. Judicial Watch accuses Liu of interfering in Albanian politics by backing the country's ruling Socialist Party at the expense of the opposition. The group said that in May 2017, Liu declared that the U.S. would recognize the results of the Albanian general election, even if the opposition refused to participate. In March, 5 Republican senators wrote to then Secretary of State Rex Tillerson asking about claims that U.S. taxpayer funds were spent on interfering in the internal politics of countries such as Albania, as well as other countries, specifically naming Macedonia. This includes reports of diplomats playing political favorites. USAID funds supporting extreme and sometimes violent political activists, and the U.S. government working to marginalize the moderates and conservatives in leadership roles, Senator Mike Lee said at the time, adding, "This behavior is unacceptable and must be halted immediately." Well, it is unacceptable, but will never be halted as long as the people continue to not act. Kind of got sidetracked by my by being interrupted with a phone call, but Judicial Watch has also made FOIA requests about activities of Soros groups in Macedonia, Romania, and Colombia. And again, this behavior will never be halted as long as individuals and governments exists, or shall I say, as long as individuals like George Soros, Ted Turner, Bill Gates, the list goes on and on, and governments exist in their current forms. And as far as I know, every form of government, except for free association, a government of free association, has been tried and has always failed, has always collapsed or been a nightmare to live in, you name it. So, and we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again as a civilization, or as a species, rather, and we get the same outcome each time. So, wouldn't you say that perhaps it's time to try something else? I mean, trying something else and failing is better than continuing to do the same things over and over again that have failed over and over again. So for thousands of years, we've been doing the same thing, creating states, and then being rolled over by people who think they're better than everybody else and have some sort of God-given right to tell everyone else how to live. And for thousands of years, they have each failed. You can see this documented in many, many, many different writings. So this fact is not something that can be argued. It just is. There's never been a just and reasonable government. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? Okay. So, Judicial Watch also made FOIA requests about the activities of Soros groups in Macedonia, Romania, and Colombia. Apparently, judicial reform in Albania remains a matter of controversy. In December of last year, opposition parties in the national parliament tried to stop the appointment of an interim prosecutor general, which is part of Albania's transition to the new system by igniting smoke bombs in the chamber. The radical move was meant to express protest against what they called an unconstitutional move by the ruling party. Last month, the political establishment in Washington was up in arms over the Trump administration's proposal to cut the budget for democracy promotion activities abroad, specifically funding for the National Endowment for Democracy and its partisan adjuncts, the National Democratic Institute and the International Republican Institute. So, this dude right here has way too much money. The other day I uploaded a, like, oh shit, like a 1 minute and 30-second video, with the guy from, oh, what was the name of that movie? Rampage, isn't it? I think so. I think it is. Where he talks about killing the rich. This dude here, he has way too much money, way too much power for a single individual to have, and he is a liability to the entire world. One man. Then, worse than that, is the people who are also very wealthy who agree with him. So, what do you think? I mean, do you think a guy like George Soros, a billionaire many times over, with the agenda he has, and followers who are also billionaires, followers all the way down to, the street, like groups like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and whatever groups happen to be in foreign countries. And Black Lives Matter and Antifa are only the ones I know about. I'm sure there are many others, but those are the two I know about. If you know about more, then please do enlighten me. So, well, for one, I know, and for two, so I can look into them and include them in videos like this one. Anyway, I mean, we're talking about a person who could literally supply an army with everything they need in any given country, including this one, to do unspeakable damage and carnage to that specific country. And if it wasn't only his money involved, it could be leaps and bounds worse. It is people like this fellow and his followers, going all the way down to the most lowly follower, that are the true threats to human life on this planet. They are who will be responsible for many, many, many bad things to come. They are the people responsible for many, many bad things that have already happened. Anyway, I thought I would share this with you. Until next time, kill the state before the state kills you.